Hey friends, Jessica here with Creators Couture. So in this video, we're going to do another little creative quickies, a little flash tutorial. I'll peel back the layers and show you how I created something. And hopefully this will give you an idea or a jumping off point to create your own designs. So I started off with this design of the tree right here. It's an abstract tree. And what's cool about this design is honestly, you don't need any special drawing skills whatsoever. So that's definitely a plus for me. So I'm just going to turn off some layers here and kind of peel back the design. And let's see how I created this. So to begin with, I used a simple triangle shape using the tool here, the triangle tool. And I used that as my base layer. And then I created another layer over it. I created a clipping mask. And then I brush stroked. I used my Couture fiber brush number 6 and to make these really cool textile inspired strokes. And of course this is using my pattern stamp technique, which I will have a link below if you're not familiar with that. But that's the technique, the color blending technique, where you use your pattern stamp tool and specially designed brushes so that you can have beautiful multicolored brush strokes. So I'll link that below. And I used one of my gorgeous new color palettes from my new boho Christmas collection, which I just released in my previous video. And hopefully I'll be able to add that to my site as well. But for right now, it's just available on my Patreon. So I brushed over that, created that layer. And then the next layer I did was this tie-dye layer here. And I used one of my tie-dye brushes, brush number 2, and to create these beautiful color blending strokes like you see here, and just use the clipping mask. So of course you just paint like this and the strokes come out. So that's what I did here, using the clipping mask of course. So it adds those really cool tie-dye strokes. And then what I did on the layer in between both of those, I made a layer in between and I applied one of my Instaglam layer styles. And I used the tie-dye brush 2B actually to do the interior portion. And I like those tie-dye brushes because I have, for every tie-dye brush, I've got the inverse brush. So I use the inverse brush like you see here. I'm just gonna delete that and then go like this, so that it goes in those spaces that's in between. So it adds a really nice touch, and you can just put it where you like. So I use that 2B brush with the Instaglam layer styles applied, and it adds that really nice depth, which I think is really cool. And so I had that. Let me just back up though to where it was here. There we go. And then, so that's the base of it, the base of the tree, and I drew these little red baubles, which I love the texture that they have. And these are, I just used, it's my Modern Impressionist brush 32 with one of the new color blends, the Christmas color blends. And I just think it's really pretty, this brush. It has a really fun, kind of a matte sort of appearance, but I love how those colors blend on it. So I just put those little balls there, and then to top it off for a little bling bling, because I always love a little bling, I just used some stamp brushes, starry stamp brushes that I also have available on my Patreon with an Instaglam layer style, gold layer style applied to it. So that's it for the tree. Very little drawing involved, but I think it's got a really cool look to it. And then just to add a little bit of accent, for the background, what I did, let me turn off these layers. So I started with a simple shape like this, and I don't use a clipping mask in this instance. I command and then click on this layer to select this. I forget exactly what the keyboard shortcut for PC is, but Option click to select that layer. I'm going to turn that off, and then I created a new layer above it, and I used the tie-dye brush number 3 with one of my gorgeous new neutral color palettes I think it was number 10, just to add that soft look. And I didn't fill it in completely. So I like keeping those, you know, you get the feel of that box, but you're not filling it in completely, but you still feel it. So I like that. And then I'm just going to deselect, and then I created another layer above that, and I still use that same selection. So I command click on that layer to select that. And then I used a lighter neutral just to brush over, I think it was, brush, let's see here, it was 14B tie-dye. So just to add these little light sort of accents of tie-dye. So it's just a little layering of those tie-dye brushes. But I love to have that subtle neutral background there. And so that's kind of how I made that. If you have a question, let me know. But this is just a little quickie sort of overview tutorial to give you an idea, a jumping off point that you might be able to use in your designs. And then over here we have the other version that I made, which is the exact same tree, but this time with the red background. So let me know which you think is prettier or which you prefer. Do you prefer the beige or the red? And if you have any questions, just let me know, but I will link all of the tools down below. And this is going to be one of my tutorials that I have the tools that I use available on my Patreon, actually. So be sure to check that out if you like to create some Photoshop brush magic.